So Pevi, last week we talked about like Lucasfilm games and our hopes for possibly a return of your favorite Star Wars video game of all time.
Be still, my beating heart.
And what day was it? It was over the weekend. I sent you a text saying a couple of words, a couple of letters actually.
Yeah, you sent me holy crap. You used a different word, and then just sent individual messages with the letters KoTOR. And I immediately went to Twitter, Google, the lot, and there was nothing. So you go.
Yeah. So last week we talked about like there's a bounty hunter game being developed somewhere. Since then I found out like EA are working on like another smaller Star Wars game. I don't know if the bounty hunter game is with them or if it's with Ubisoft. But yeah, EA are working on stuff, and there's another unannounced game with EA which I have no idea what it is. I don't think it's Battlefront 3. That could come down the line, obviously, but I don't know what that third game is. But amongst my digging, I heard that there is a nice little Republic project in development somewhere. I talked to a couple of people, and I also found out that Jason Schreier, he said that it's not with EA, and we'll never guess who the studio is that's making this game.
Nintendo.
But as soon as I found this stuff out, the only person I thought of was Pevi, and I texted him straight away, just to make his year, yeah. So Pevi is happening somewhere. It's happening. Like, if people don't even want to believe me, and like I think I've got a pretty like reliable track record, like Jason Schreier, like he's the guy for leaking of video games. He's like, you can't get better than him. So yeah, this thing is happening. It's in the works somewhere. KoTOR's coming back.
I can't wait. I'm very excited. I don't really know what to say. I mean, when there's no details, it's difficult, but it's just nice. Yeah. It's nice to have some sort of hope, because you've always put the kibosh on me whenever I've had hope. You always going, I'm not hearing anything. So, and it kind of makes me feel a bit vindicated, because there were definitely teasers in that sizzle, reel.
Like I haven't got a clue what it is. Like literally all I know I've just said, but it is a thing. It is happening somewhere. With the Ubisoft thing, they are hiring people who have specific RPG experience for their game. So I don't know. Maybe it's one and the same. But I kind of think the bounty hunter thing might be there. I don't know about that. Like, I'm not sure on any of it. I know KoTOR is happening somewhere. Obviously, Ubisoft are making a game. I've heard it's a bounty hunter game. Whatever. But like, yeah. I think if they are doing this KoTOR thing, I don't think it's going to be a proper remake of 1 and 2. I think Lucasfilm will give a definitive story for it. I don't think you'll be able to choose the sex of Darth Revan or anything. I think this is the path, this is the story, this is the canon story we're telling. That
will be unpopular. They will be stupid to do that.
I think no matter what will they do, if they turn into a canon story that they want, I think it's going to be with a negative response from people.
If they change this from an RPG into a action adventure game, there will be riots in the streets.
I kind of see him going more that way, even for his open world or something, but I just can't see them going the way they did before. I think there'll be a retelling, but the way Lucasfilm wanted it to be. It'll be definitive. Because anytime they ever show you Revan these days, he's always a male. Whereas obviously, like in KoTOR, he could have been a male or female. You could have chosen if you wanted to be dark or light again.
There was one canon story. There was always, before all this, there was always a singular canon story. And if you diverge from that, that's fine. You just know that what you did is not canon. I don't see why that's not possible.
I just think this is the way they're going to go. personally, I don't mind, but like I haven't got the reverence for the franchise as you have with KoTOR.
To not be able to make that whole game's thing was that you could make choices and decisions, and if it stops you doing that, then that's it. Like, they've blown it.
I'm curious who's making this, because back when I heard Ubisoft were in talks, the other company I heard in talks was Activision. And Activision, with Vicarious Visions, I've had experience with a lot of remakes lately. The Crash trilogy, Spyro trilogy, and Tony Hawk. Maybe these guys can handle it. If it is a remake or a retelling, I don't know. Like, I think Lucasfilm being Lucasfilm, and the story group with the video games being as strict as they are, I think that it's gonna be, I think it's gonna be their version, as a definitive version, and they're not gonna let it be like this big sprawling RPG.
Well, then making a mistake.
They probably are, but like, that's just how I see it going. I know, like, it's way too early to say because we know nothing about this thing other than like, yeah, it's happening somewhere. Like,
if you just keep making the same sort of games, you just keep making games where you just play through a story, then it's just with no, like, the way games are going, you make choices in games. Like, even if they're not RPGs, you make choices in games, and if they continually just be dogged about, like, JJ got to make his own Star Wars story, why can't I?
it's just,
I'm not.
no answers,
I'm not annoyed at you, by the way. I'm just.
Oh no, I didn't think you was. I didn't think.
No, I'm just. I know exactly. I don't want you to take this as a personal attack at you, because sometimes I can sound like that. But it's. I'm flabbergasted that is even a possibility. Like, there's no point. Why would you go back? Like, I'm not like the Old Republic MMO, which they're very happy to show off. Like, you make choices in that. That's like one of the whole conceits of that game, is that you make story choices and it's an MMO.
What's your thoughts, Nick? How do you feel about this?
I just want it to be like those videos of Knights of the Old Republic. I just want it to be as good as that, please, and I'll be
the old Republic cinematics.
Yeah, because you got the ability to do that now. I think it could start something. It could start maybe a film or a TV show.
It's the main thing with redoing this KoTOR stuff.
Yeah,
is that it's gonna tell a generation that knows nothing about KoTOR.
Yeah,
like, it's gonna bring on a new legion of fans and tell a story to, like, kids who grew up with the sequel trilogy. Yeah, they probably have no idea what KoTOR is.
It's a no-brainer. It's an absolute no-brainer for something totally different. Put the Star Wars logo in it.
Even if it isn't like an RPG, even if it isn't like a true retelling of the original games, they're gonna sell.
Yeah, bucketfuls.
So much. So it's not gonna bother Lucasfilm. They, as long as it's making money and selling copies, they're not gonna care.
Then they'll be happy.
Obviously, it'll upset a lot of people, and I've said before, I guarantee you, there's gonna be #NotMyRevan. That's gonna be a thing.
Yeah, but I got no problem with that. But if they take away the very essence of the game, then you're not remaking the game anymore.
Yeah, I think that's right. I don't want that.
You're not. If you're making a new game which is a linear story, then that's not Knights of the Old Republic. So don't call it that.
I think that's kind of the route they'll go. You'll have open worlds, like for like some areas to go to where that's Tatooine or wherever.
So like, it's basically going to be Fallen Order in the Old Republic.
Yeah, that's how I see it.
Well, then screw them. Seriously, screw them, because honestly, Fallen Order is great, and I'm happy for the people that like that sort of game. But what about those of us that don't? This is the thing. Just make a bunch of games. Just make them, and just say it's not canon. Like, I don't care. Like, say it's not canon, but let us play a game that we actually want to play. Like, I think everyone wants to play. Like, do you think flipping Warner Brothers give a crap about whether like something is canon or not with this new Harry Potter RPG?
No, but Lucasfilm are different, aren't they?
They're wrong.
They're so anal about it all.
Oh, it's pathetic. It's honestly, do you know what? Actually, I sound like a faction of the fandom that I don't want to be associated with. But I can't stand Lucasfilm. I can't stand anything that... I don't like them as a company at the moment. And I'm not saying that's anyone's fault, but just the way they act is just not... I don't like it. And I'm not proud of it. Like, honestly, like, it's just...
Everybody who's worked on, like, a game, under, like, the EA thing, they always said, like, the story group, the Lucasfilm Games people, were all, like, so particular and protective of everything. It has to be their way. It has to be...
Well, their job's worse, because basically they're basically the blokes with a clipboard at football. They're basically the stewards at a football game, right? The stewards have no effect of what happens on the pitch, but they will make sure, like, most of them are fine, but they will make sure that, like, if they've got a clipboard and a headset on, that they're the ones that are, like, you know, that you will listen to us, because they know that the films aren't listening to them. You know,
they gotta put it in with all the canon. They're gonna make it all work, and it's just like there was the
canon's a mess already. This is the thing: is that canon is a complete mess.
Yeah, and that's because of the films. They don't they give the films different rules to everything else. They say, "Hey, director, writer, you do what you want with the film."
Well, it's not just the films, is it? The comics are a mess as well.
Well, the comics.
How many times has Luke Skywalker met flipping Darth Vader in between?
Yeah.
A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back. I'm not being funny. Clone Wars, people love the Clone Wars, but that messes everything up canon-wise. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense in Revenge of the Sith because it happened. Like, how many times do they meet Count Dooku?
Yeah.
Like, I'm all for... I get it. I obviously feel quite passionate about this sort of thing. But it's like, I'm sick of this, like, oh, we've got to listen to canon. It's like, well, go screw yourself. Like, you don't give a crap about canon.
Yeah, I thought I made Pevy's year. I might not have. I might have ruined his year.
Well, I was very excited until you said, "Oh no, it might actually just be like an action adventure."
I don't know, but like if I was guessing, then I think that Lucasfilm are going to have so much control over it that, like, it's not LucasArts, is it? Like, LucasArts was letting companies do free reign on the games, like, you know.
Who'd have thought that most of the games people adore came out in that time period? Like, you say that, like, oh, Lucasfilm won't care all the time they're making money. They will completely ruin the Star Wars brand. I'd argue they've already damaged it, in my opinion, with some of the things that have happened. Right? If they crack on, there will be no new. There's no soul. Like, there's no heart in Fallen Order, right?
But I think when you gave Lucasfilm to Disney, you were gonna lose that heart anyway. That's something I completely disagree with you, because
a lot of the Disney stuff has heart. The Marvel stuff has heart.
Yeah, I'm not saying like Disney like content doesn't, but it's like you're giving it to Disney and they're gonna pump out things so hard and so fast.
No, but this is the point. They've not done that. I don't care if they like Disney as a company lets people have creative reign. The Marvel stuff's no problem. The Marvel stuff has heart. You know, like there's something about Lucasfilm where they've just got this. They've got this massive superiority complex where they think they're the only ones that matter. Anyone else other than them is just irrelevant, and it's their way or the highway. And to be honest, it's infuriating. I don't see how like you guys aren't more annoyed by this. Like, I find them like so annoying because they don't just let creators do what they want. Like, this is like George Lucas. It was his baby, and he just let people do what they want with his world. Like, why do they think they know better than George Lucas did at the time? The guy that made it. Seriously. Am I missing something?
Well, Lucas always kind of said that like everything that isn't in the films kind of wasn't canon in his mind, like other than Clone Wars. Like, he disregarded like a lot of the books and everything, whereas this Lucasfilm are trying to be so meticulous with it all. And they screw up all like a hell of a lot of the time, especially with the canon stuff. Like,
this is the thing. If they were like, if canon was immaculate, I might buy it. Like, if everything was so perfect and everything lined up and it all told like one story, I'd be like, fair enough. You know, it's like whatever. I understand, but it's not. It's a mess.
I also think we should.
This Ochi comic, right? Loved it for Ochi, but it makes absolutely no flipping sense that Darth Vader has met Ochi and gone to Exegol. It makes no sense.
It's just to justify the things happening in Tross.
Which is fine, but it makes no sense. Like the comics, like I'd understand, but the comics throw a cog in everything that you say, which isn't your fault. I know you're not making this up, by the way. This is fact, but it's like the comics are a complete mess. So why can't video games be a mess? Or you've got a solution. If you don't want it to be, just say, oh, this is the canonical storyline, and if you don't like it, whatever the other sort of, if you diverge from that path, then your story is Legends. They've already got a mechanism for this. No one ever had a problem in Knights of the Old Republic 2 when it was like there was a canonical story. Like in the Old Republic, the video game, there's a canonical Revan who is a male. Like it. No one got upset that no one got confused that when they played as Revan it was a female. Like people they don't give people any credit for their intelligence, and it's infuriating. I find the whole operation at Lucasfilm infuriating. Sorry.
Sorry.
I find them insufferable. Honestly, it's like it's mental.
I really didn't think we were going to get that, but we did.
I didn't think we were going to go there. No.
Well, I didn't either. But I've completely forgot the possibility that Lucasfilm could cock something else up. Of course they can. A Lucasfilm.
I don't know what to say, kind of, but it's more like right now with KoTOR.
You played that Avengers game, right? Right. Avengers game, for whatever reason, it's a failure, whatever. But those Avengers aren't the ones in the films. Like, no one cares. That doesn't make it any less important. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think if there was like the film characters, they'd be super hard on like what they can and can't do, which is what Lucasfilm's problem is. They're treating everything as canon.
That's completely fair enough, isn't it? So if you've got Fallen Order and Darth Vader shows up, I would expect them to be like completely mental about it, right? But this is the Old Republic. Like, nothing's going to show up.
I just think they just want to. Well, it's going to probably get tied into the High Republic, right? It's probably going to like be some kind of through line. I'd imagine.
It's so dumb. It's so dumb. Like, honestly.
It's too early to like really say what this KoTOR thing is going to be. Like, we literally know nothing. From what I can gather, it probably started work in 2019, late 2019, early 2020. Like, we don't know who's doing it. If it is Ubisoft, if that is the game they're making, then they were hiring RPG experienced developers. So that's like a sign, hopefully in the right direction, because Assassin's Creed especially has a lot of RPG elements these days. Since they rebooted it with like Origins and every game since Odyssey and Valhalla.
Bespin, we were 10 when the Episode 3 game came out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? And you can play that game to a point where Anakin beats Obi-Wan, yeah?
Yeah.
Were you ever confused by that?
No.
No, because you were like, oh, this isn't how it goes in the film. But never mind. Like, you were 10. A 10-year-old literally figured it out, right?
And
who do they think they are?
We also played that game before the movie came out in this country.
Exactly. It was like, I got to the end of that game and was like, well, obviously, Anakin don't win. But I was 10. I flipping figured it out. Like, it's mental. It's mental. This obsession with canon is, honestly, it's toxic. Like, you're stifling any kind of creativity in any other medium because they just assume that the only mediums that are important are TVs and film, when it's not. Video games are very, very important. Like, video games should be viewed on par with those, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and I just can't say anything, man. It's just too early to do it. Like, you don't know how much they're gonna meddle with it.
I've probably got really annoyed over something that might not even happen. So we'll see. But it's just.
I thought he's gonna be the happiest he's been in months because of KoTOR, but like he went the other way.
I was until you suggested it might not be an RPG, and then it's like, well, what's the point? It's like going, oh yeah, we're doing Empire at War, but we're going to make it so the Rebellion always win because the Empire don't win in canon. Like, or it's like doing. It's mental, man.
I can just
how do they get around it with Squadrons? Because in Squadrons, like either could win. Like you can play the story from both sides. So how does that work?
I didn't complete Squadrons. I haven't played Squadrons at all, so like I don't know.
No, but Squadrons you can play both sides, can't you?
Yeah.
And go through the campaign from both ends.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I
So
think it
how
all
do they
leads
get
to the
around
one
that?
conclusion, though, doesn't it?
Oh, it's pathetic. It's pathetic.
And like the squadron you're a part of on both teams are referenced in the books.
And now the films. Or it
I
will
don't
be.
know, man. It's stupid, man. It's
You're all idiots. That's all I'm
You
gonna
c-
say.
you can't you to ignore RPGs is ridiculous. They're a massive part of how people play games. Cyberpunk is an RPG. The Witcher, widely considered one of the best games of the last generation, was an RPG. And just to ignore them and say, or do it, but take all the soul out of it, which is making decisions. It's literally called a role-playing game. You make the decisions yourself. I don't know. I don't know who wants that. At that point, why make a game? You know?
I think like it will still sell, no matter what. And
Of course it will sell. It will sell, yeah. I'm not doubting that. But my point is, in 20 years' time, they won't be able to just put any old crap out and expect it to sell. This is the point. They're not gatekeeping the franchise for the future generations. Do you know what I mean? Like, we play half the reason we love Star Wars so much is because of the video games that came out when we were younger. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you honestly believe anyone's getting any sort of, like, Battlefront's great? Do you think anyone's getting any sort of effect, like, nostalgic affection for Star Wars through the new Battlefronts?
No.
Like, they're great, but they're so sanitized.
Yeah, no, I don't think they are. But I also think like you're seeing less and less kids be involved with Star Wars. When you and I were kids, we were involved with the games, the toys, everything for us. Like all kids around us loved Star Wars. Like it was still the thing. But as kids these days, they don't really care. Like the people playing Star Wars games and supporting the figures and going to the films multiple times are us. It's the people who grew up with the prequels, the people who grew up with the original trilogy. It's the same people. But like I said it before, I think every generation has their Star Wars. There's this big franchise that comes in, and obviously in the 70s and the 80s it was Star Wars, and Harry Potter. It's like it has a massive generation, and then I think this generation for kids is Marvel. It is the MCU, and that's sad to see that the kids don't care about Star Wars anymore. But they don't, man. Kids don't really care unless their parents are trying to force it upon them.
But do you think that's a failure on the film's part?
You'd have to imagine that it plays the massive part of it, yeah. Like, it's hard to explain why kids don't care.
Because there's no lightning doesn't strike twice, right? And the kids in the 70s and 80s love Star Wars, and then the kids in the 90s and the 2000s love Star Wars, even when the Star Wars films were less than good. So what was the problem?
But I think with us, with the prequels, a lot of the stuff in those movies were aimed at us. It's like the Return of the Jedi is the most kid-friendly out of the 3 Star Wars movies. Like there's a lot of stuff in there to push product, to push merchandise. You know, there's a reason the Ewoks are the Ewoks. And I think even if the films were dumb, like the prequels, like I don't like Attack of the Clones, but when I was a kid, getting all the figures from the Geonosis set piece, you know, all the creatures and all of that stuff, that was amazing as a kid to see. Like that, like as a child, like everything in that world was amazing. And I think the Star Wars world is still amazing, but it just doesn't appeal to the kids anymore. It just appeals to us. And especially now where they keep digging their heels in the original trilogy, that's further proving that they're trying to cater to the old fans. That's what they're trying. Like George did something new with the prequels. He did think about us. He did think about us, the new generation, the kids. That's why Anakin is a kid in The Phantom Menace. We're supposed to relate to him. He's supposed to be us.
Yippee!
Yeah. And whereas now Lucasfilm are all about the original trilogy and digging their heels in. So who are they appealing to? the 40-year-olds, the 50-year-olds. Maybe yes, but like that's just what Lucasfilm is now. It's not that they're having an identity crisis. It's just that they believe their identity is so tied to the original trilogy that they aren't willing to take risks. This is why I truly hope Taika does do something fresh and different with his film. Like, not saying he will, not saying that will actually happen, but you just gotta hope, because that could reinvigorate Star Wars for a completely new generation. Because the sequel trilogy did not, especially when you look at Tross. JJ looked at the original trilogy and said, "That's where I grew up on. That's where I love. That's the film I'm making. It's gonna be all tied to original trilogy crap." Like, there's nothing new for this generation. It's for the older generation. I haven't gone into the cinema once during this Lucasfilm Disney run and seen a kid. It's always been people my age and older. I don't know about you lot, but I've never seen a kid in there.
I told you they were rubbish. You didn't listen to me.
No, I don't think they are rubbish though, but there are definitely elements that I'd have done differently. Like, I don't think there should have been X-Wings.
No, it's like Bespin said, George did a completely new era, new ships, new lands, new everything. And that's what they didn't do in this
everything
era.
in the prequels was fresh, man.
It was
like,
fresh, yeah.
You look at Kamino, you look at Mustafar.
Yeah.
As a kid, you look at Mustafar, and that's like the coolest planet you've ever seen in your life. It's a lava planet, man. Like, that's cool to a kid. You see Kamino, all the crashing waves.
Yeah.
This little like facility in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
You know, the intrigue of like the monsters just beneath that sea. Like, you can see them, but you can't quite see them. It's just...
Yeah, it was...
Like I said, like in Geonosis, when you got all the creatures there, like Anakin and Obi-Wan and Padme have to like fend off. That's cool to a child. Everything in the Phantom Menace is cool to a child. Like, yeah, Jar Jar is stupid and everything, but he is supposed to be stupid. He's supposed to like appeal to kids. Like, as a kid, I liked Jar Jar. Like, and I didn't like C-3PO. I thought he was annoying. I hated C-3PO as a kid. Like, but I loved Jar Jar as a child. Obviously, that changes as you grow up, but George and that era of Star Wars, they still captured the generation, that new generation. People back then were complaining, "No, George Lucas ruined our childhood," but he made ours. Whereas this generation, this Disney era Star Wars, they're not making Star Wars for the kids anymore. They're making it for the people who grew up with it during the prequels, and more especially the original trilogy. That's what we got to remember. That's what we got to look at. That's what Lucasfilm is. They believe firmly that Star Wars and the identity of Star Wars is tied to the original trilogy, but it isn't. It's a galaxy. It's a big, massive galaxy. You don't have to focus on one era, one look, one aesthetic from 40 years ago. George didn't. You don't have to. I did plan to end this episode of Peppy on a happy note. I didn't think he'd go this way, but it is what it is, and
Sorry, guys.
I'm going to go cry into a pillow.
No, I'm sorry. I don't mean to make everyone feel down. It's just I care a lot about Knights of the Old Republic, and it's not just the story. It's the type of game it is it's my favourite type of game. I struggle to understand why you'd mess with that formula when all anyone wants is a RPG set in Star Wars. It's an excuse to print money, and you would make new fans, but they, like you say, I don't think they're interested in making new fans. So there we go.